Good morning and welcome to Valley Views. I'm your host, Glenn Edison, and certainly glad to have you today. And as always, we want to thank BTC Fiber for their sponsoring of this program. You can see our interviews on BTC Fiber's YouTube page as well as BTC Fiber's Channel 18. And today we have with us John Cameron, who's running for Circuit Court Judge. And John, it's good to have you.
Nice to see you.
Appreciate you being here.
Yes, sir. Thanks for the invite.
Let's start out doing a little background on you so people kind of know who you are, where you're from, that type of thing.
All right. My name's Cam Cameron. It's actually John, as you mentioned, but my nickname is Cam. I'm originally from Marion County. I currently live in Lone Oak with my wife.
Oh, okay.
Up on top of the mountain. Was born and raised in Marion County and have been practicing law over there for about 19 years. Graduate of Marion County High School, University of Tennessee at Chattanooga, and Nashville School of Law.
All right, that sounds got a good. So you've been practicing how long now?
19, almost 20 years.
Almost 20 years.
Yes, sir.
So it's a good bit of.
It's been a minute.
Yeah. Well, that's good. You're currently practicing law in Marion County, is that right?
Yes, sir. My office is in Jasper. I practice with my dad, Harvey Cameron, who is actually the second oldest member of the bar of the 12th Judicial District, which the 12th Judicial District is the district consisting of 6 counties, and it's that circuit court judge for that district, that position that I'm running for.
Now, in that position, the circuit court judge, the cases they hear, are they brought to that court, or is it something that a case that you would just hear if it was come up, or how does that work?
Well, cases are initially filed there, and also appeals from certain lower courts can wind up in circuit court. Circuit court, for those who don't know, is the trial court. If I pull out here on Rankin Avenue and get T-boned by the UPS truck, have some kind of injury or property damage, and I file a lawsuit, then typically those would be filed in circuit court.
Oh, I see.
And it's the trial court for criminal matters also. So if you're charged with a felony offense and you want a jury trial, a trial by your peers, then that's conducted in the circuit court.
Oh, okay. So it stays pretty busy then.
Oh, yes, sir. And there are appeals from juvenile court on certain juvenile matters. If there's a ruling in the juvenile court that a person doesn't like, it's appealed in some circumstances to circuit court. There are also appeals from General Sessions Court on civil judgments and things like that, also to circuit court.
So it's not always just necessarily what I call a bad crime like murder or something like that. It could be anything, really.
It could be. Typically it's felony matters, though.
Felony.
Occasionally you'll see a misdemeanor somehow work its way through or beyond General Sessions Court, and it would wind up in the circuit court, but that's rare.
Right. So just primarily felonies then.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay.
In any cases involving, for example, not any cases. Circuit court has concurrent jurisdiction on family-related matters along with Chancery Court. Now, there's some exceptions to that. There are actually a couple of courts, General Sessions courts that have family law jurisdiction as well.
Right.
But what I was going to say is that also divorces, custody matters, those oftentimes wind up in circuit court.
Right. Well, I guess sometimes they don't like the decision. They want to appeal it higher, I guess.
Well, sometimes. Typically, I don't want to get into all the nuances of law, but that's not necessarily the way it works.
Oh, okay. Now, we mentioned the 12th Judicial District. Tell us what all counties are in that district.
6 counties: Franklin, Grundy, Marion, Ray, Sequatchie, and Bledsoe counties. In fact, it's the second largest judicial district in the state of Tennessee.
Wow.
So it's large.
Well, I was going to say, from Franklin to Ray, that's a long way.
Exactly. It's close. It's about a 2 hour trek.
Yeah.
I've been traveling, campaigning, and going to various events. And just last week was having to travel from Franklin County to Ray County. And prior to that have been going in the opposite direction. So yeah, it's about a 2-hour drive.
So you had to qualify actually in all those counties, right? You had to do your qualifying papers and everything in all those counties?
Correct. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You qualify in the county in which you reside, and then those accepted petitions are then filed with each other county.
So you just qualify there in Marion County?
Here.
Or here?
Because I'm a resident of Sequatchie County.
Oh, that's right. You said you live in Lone Oak. That's right.
Yes, sir.
And you qualified here, and then you just take those qualifying papers to the other counties.
That's right.
Okay,
Yes,
well, that makes sense. Now, where if you win the position here as the judge, where do you have your court cases?
You bounce. They call them circuit court judges for a reason. Now, you probably remember years ago, old Methodist preachers traveled a circuit, went and preached in different places. That's sort of where the name circuit court originated, because you bounce from county to county.
Oh, okay.
You could be in Franklin County today, in Ray County tomorrow, in Sequatchie County the next day. You have cases throughout the week in various counties.
Oh,
and there are 3 judges that cover those counties.
Oh, okay. So
Bradley Sherman will be replacing Judge Graham. That's for Division or Part 1. Justin Angel is unopposed, and he's going to be in his second term as Division or Part 3. And I am running for the seat that's being vacated by Judge Smith, which is Division or Part 2.
Part 2, yeah.
Yes, sir.
So
and I'm the only one in a contested race. So May 3rd is the election.
Oh, for you, so both of you are in the Republican primary?
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay. So you'll be determined by then.
Yes, sir. So people need to get out and vote.
Yeah. Well, I know the early voting started Wednesday.
Yes, sir.
And goes through the end of the month.
Close.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. I think it's the 25th-ish, something like that.
Yeah, and usually early voting I've noticed here lately that more people do early voting. I guess it's to just kind of get out, wait, and don't have to wait in long lines.
Yes, sir.
And I did mine yesterday.
Well, good.
And so and took care of that. Now, I guess like in all cases, once you make a ruling in circuit court, can they appeal from there? Do they go?
They can, yes, sir. That would go to the Court of Appeals. The circuit court is the highest level trial court, and then it starts the appellate court. The Court of Appeals, there's a criminal court and a civil court of appeals, and then the Supreme Court for the state. Yes, sir. So those decisions, those rulings can be appealed. Yes, sir.
But I guess on most terms, though, they're usually stopped there at the circuit court mostly.
Typically, I mean, if it's a sound ruling, typically that's where it stops. Of course, folks can appeal anything.
Right.
Doesn't mean they'll be successful. But a lot of times the cases end at the trial level. And the majority of the time.
I imagine as a judge, you have to stay on top of all the laws, because you might be hearing one type of case in one county one day and another case in another county next day.
That's exactly right. And you have to be well versed and keep up. The reality is that there's some cases that don't come before a circuit court judge on a regular basis, and it's the obligation of the attorneys to basically educate the judge on what the issue is and what the law is, and then ultimately the judge would listen to the facts, apply the law, and
because the laws change all the time.
Yes, sir.
I mean, the General Assembly, they'll change laws from year to year.
Absolutely.
So if you're not really up on everything, you have to catch up.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And I imagine that's kind of hard to do sometimes.
Oh, it's nonstop.
So you're constantly reading and studying.
Yes, sir.
So that you can apply the law equally.
Yes, sir.
And
that's why they call it the practice of law.
Yeah.
You just gotta, it's ever evolving.
So when you're not in session, you're either studying, I guess, or going back, or preparing for cases that you know you're going to have.
Yes, sir. A lot of times you can make rulings on cases from the bench. There are other situations, depending on the complexity of the issues, where you would have to actually issue written rulings that and lengthy legal memorandums that support your ruling. So you're either in court or you're making rulings and working on orders involving cases you've heard. So you're going all the time.
So in making all those memorandums, you have to go back and look at the law and say, well, this is how this applies and this is how that doesn't apply.
Yes, sir.
So if a lawyer were to bring up points, you can say, well, that point's not a
Exactly.
point.
Exactly.
And
you have to analyze their arguments and positions and then ultimately reach a conclusion based on your interpretation of the law and the facts.
Well, what got you into to becoming an attorney and getting into law?
Well, I started my career actually as an investigator doing child protective and adult protective service work. That was the first job I had out of college, and I did that for a number of years. And in doing that, it got to a point where I truly thought that I could have a greater contribution. And I thought becoming an attorney would be a way to do that. I was in and out of court on a regular basis dealing with child abuse and those type of cases, dependency and neglect cases. And I thought that I could have a bigger impact. And fortunately, that's proven to be the case. Even as an attorney, I continue. It's been 30 years now that I've been working to try to protect the most vulnerable folks in our society, and I just do it in a different fashion now. And I think that this is a natural progression, given the amount of time that I've been practicing. I'm also a sitting judge for the city of South Pittsburgh, and have been a special judge for General Sessions Court in Marion County for 13 years.
Oh, okay. So you have the experience.
Handled the civil and criminal dockets for Judge Raines when needed. So yes, sir, I do have the experience. In fact, I'm the only candidate seeking this position that has that experience.
Oh, well, that's good.
So if I'm fortunate enough to serve as a circuit court judge, I hope that I'll be able to continue to have an impact, a positive impact in the community, and be able to continue my efforts to protect people and make our community safe and those type of things.
Now, those terms, are they 8-year terms?
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
Yes,
that's
sir.
what I was thinking. They were 8 years instead of 4.
Correct.
So that gives you a longer time to, not like when you just get started and have to start over again for another election. You can take
Right.
time.
Not like poor congressmen that are politicking all the time or running all the time.
Right,
Yes,
right.
sir.
Well, that's a good thing. That helps you get work on things that, and if you were to mess up on a ruling or something, you can go back with all those years and say, well, I learned from that mistake. Not that you're going to mess up.
Well, nobody's perfect. You just do the best you can do, and if there's a mistake, then you learn from your mistake. But I don't expect that I'm not going to be perfect. I'm not so presumptuous to think that I won't make mistakes. I think everybody, especially with the nuances of law and all the issues that come into play in these trials, there's bound to be a time or two that you hit a bump.
Well, you have to look at the law and what the law says, and that's your parameter of what the law is.
Right. Yes, sir.
And even though you might think someone might deserve a stiffer penalty or harsher for their crime, you've got to go by the law and under what you can do and what you can't do.
That's exactly right. And a lot of times people, especially in criminal situations, as I've been going from county to county, people ask about my position on punishment and how I'll handle certain things. And of course, it's really impossible to say until you have that case in front of you and know all the circumstances and those type things. But a lot of people have a misconception that judges can just put somebody in jail, throw away the key, and
Yeah.
and everybody goes to jail straight away, and that's not the way it works. Judges have parameters within which they have to work,
Right.
and there's sentencing guidelines that have to be followed, and oftentimes people don't wind up going to jail.
Right.
They're probated sentences or split confinement, where you might be in jail for a while and then released on probation.
Uh-huh.
So every case is different, but there is a misconception oftentimes that everybody just needs to go to jail and throw away the key.
Right.
But it doesn't work that way.
Well, and many times in crimes, and I don't mean to belittle crimes or the criminals, but you have to find out all your facts. I mean, you have to understand why something was done, and sometimes that's not always brought out. And,
Right.
You're at least not on the face of the committing of the crime. It's already broadcast on the news and everybody's already got their opinion, and then they don't know all the facts.
That's exactly right. And it's important to know all the facts before you reach conclusions.
Because, you could see something on television and say, well, that person, they need to go to jail,
Mm-hmm.
and then you not realize maybe what was behind all that.
That's right. Yes,
So,
sir. One thing, we're talking about what's behind, one thing that plays into our problems with crime is drug and alcohol issues. Theft. People need drugs, so they go steal somebody's lawnmower to sell it, so they can buy their drugs, and
Right.
and it's a vicious cycle. There's just a lot of things that play into our problems with respect to crime. Fortunately, in the district, there's a drug court. There's some programs that are in place to try to help people that want to help themselves,
Right.
which is, I think, an important aspect. Also, I want to, as the next circuit court judge, try to garner resources to have a mental health component,
Uh-huh.
also to help those who have mental health issues that otherwise wouldn't be in the criminal
Right.
justice system, but for not taking their medication,
Uh-huh.
or not having resources to help them deal with
Right.
whatever pressures and things that may lead them to do certain things or engage in certain behaviors. So
Right. Because a lot of times they forget they've even done something.
exactly,
They're not sure that they've even done that.
And I have some personal experience with that. I mentioned sitting for Mark Raines
Uh-huh.
as the General Sessions judge. That court also deals with certificate of need hearings, which are hearings where a determination is made as to whether or not a person needs to be involuntarily committed into
Uh-huh.
a mental health facility for some period of time when they're posing a risk of harm to themselves or others. So I have firsthand knowledge presiding over those of the true nature and difficulties with respect to mental health issues and mental health problems of people, and I see them in court on a regular basis. Veterans with PTSD.
Yes. Uh-huh.
That's an example of individuals that otherwise wouldn't be potentially before a court and facing some kind of criminal charge or
Right.
criminal record. So I think as a judge, being able to explore those possibilities and those resources to again help the community and better the community, that's something I hope to be able to do.
Well, jail's not always the answer for people. Sometimes, like you said, they need that rehab. That's more the answer for them to get them off the drugs or get them help, in the mental capacity they need, instead of putting them in jail, because that don't always work.
Yes, sir. It doesn't. Now there are people that need to go to jail.
Yes.
Don't get me wrong.
Right.
And that may be the only option. And if that's the only option, that's where they're gonna go. I certainly don't want my court, and I don't think the other judges want the court to be a revolving door.
Right.
And a lot of people are frustrated that that's the case to a degree, that they see the same people over and over in court.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
there's really no progress. People don't learn their lessons, and sometimes the only way to learn a lesson is to make it a hard lesson.
Right. And well, I keep hearing about you, since you mentioned about the drug rehab and things like that. I keep hearing that over and over from other people as well. And so maybe within time that's going to come about because, well, it's kind of hard to say, but I'm assuming people are kind of tired of having to deal with all the drug issues. And not that they're mad at people, it's something that keeps going on, and it seems like sometimes we don't deal with it as like we should.
Well, I don't think anybody knows what the answer is.
Yeah.
Obviously, those issues have been plaguing our communities for decades. So, who knows? It's kind of a moving target, and you try to do the best that you can do to deal with those with law enforcement through the court systems and those type things. And
well, I was just
it's
reading.
not going to end anytime soon.
I was just reading this morning a case on the Texas border where Border Patrol had stopped a bunch of illegal aliens coming across, and there was a 4-year-old who had marijuana. He was from Guatemala, and they had arrested him and his mother because he had. Well, I don't know if they arrested him, but the mother, and he had marijuana strapped to him.
It's like a mule.
Yeah, and so that's the problem we deal with too. That just because we think of Texas and all the border states, that those drugs come this way as well.
Well, I think that drug dealers certainly need to be dealt with more harshly than a drug user potentially. Because the drug problem has devastating consequences on the entire communities.
Right.
And messages need to be sent that those behaviors won't be tolerated. And as a judge, they need to know that at least this judge will bring as much pressure to bear as I can within, again, the parameters that I'm obligated to operate under.
Well, and you're like I say, you're not just from Sequatchie County. You represent all those counties as a circuit court judge, and so you're like part of their community. So if one community is having a certain problem with a certain area, you're going to put your focus on that, and then you might have to change your focus over here.
Yes, sir. I'll be devoting my energies and efforts equally throughout the district. That's for sure.
Well, is there anything? So if you actually your competition's in the Republican primary, so if you win the primary, then I know your name will probably be on the August ballot, but it'll just be there on name only.
That's correct. Yes, sir. Same for the other judges as well.
Right.
Yes, sir.
Well, I wish you well. Is there anything else you'd like to bring out that we haven't talked about?
Well, I just want people to know that I'm considered by all that come before me in court. I've had people tell me that they consider me to be a fair and firm judge. I'm respectful and humble, and that's not going to change when I become a next circuit court judge, or if I'm blessed with the opportunity to do that. I truly do have a servant's heart. I think my heart's in the right place. I want to make a positive contribution to our communities, and this is a way to do that. I always regretted not going into the service. When I got out of high school, my dad said, "Son, you can go to college, you can join the service." And I came real close to joining the service, didn't do that, and I've always regretted not having served. My service has been through my efforts as an attorney and through our legal system. So that's what I want to continue to do. It's my way of making a contribution to our communities, and I just hope that I can get people's support in the vote on May 3rd. I'll certainly work my tail off and do my level best to be the very best judge that I can be.
Well, maybe you can make this Judicial District a better place.
Well, I'll certainly work toward that, yes, sir.
Oh, I know you will. Well, I appreciate you being with us.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate the invite.
No problem.
Look forward to continuing to meet folks over the next several months as I'm out here campaigning, and ask people to vote for Cam Cameron on May 3rd or even sooner.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, folks, you heard it here, so you can see our program on BTC Fiber's YouTube page as well as BTC Fiber's Channel 18. And until next time, have a great day.
Hey everybody, this is Glenn Edison from Valley Views. We appreciate you watching our shows, and we would like for you to like, share, and follow us on Facebook, as well as like and subscribe to our YouTube page.
Brought to you by Bledsoe Telephone Cooperative, your full-service telecommunications provider right here in the Sequatchie Valley.